Well, it's official. Toronto FC is going to be exiting the season with an entirely different group of designated players than they entered it with. Carlos Salcedo has mutually terminated his contract with Toronto FC, allowing him to go back to Mexico. Salcedo, who we acquired from Tigres in exchange for former designated player Jefferson Soteldo, came in as a center back designated player for Toronto FC, and really never really settled in with the team. At the beginning of the season, it was obvious that he wasn't fully comfortable and hadn't fully settled in yet, and had a couple red cards in the first couple games, and then second half of his tenure here, pretty obvious that he was not fully mentally in it here in Toronto, and that seems obvious given that it seems that he had some family health issues going on back home in Mexico, which is why he left the team to go back home and be with his family. So overall, a kind of weak designated player signing for Toronto FC. Salcedo finishes with 16 appearances for Toronto FC, 13 in MLS and 3 in the Canadian Championship, which actually puts him only the third lowest amongst Toronto FC designated players, as Eric Hasley and Mista both played less games for Toronto. So by all means, not the worst designated player signing Toronto FC has ever had. However, this does go down as not one of the better ones. However, we are able to terminate his contract halfway through the season. He walks, and now we open up a designated player spot. No harm, no foul, just not the start to the 2022 season, or not the first half to the 2022 season that we would have wanted, and the Salcedo not settling in and then not being mentally fully here both definitely contributed to the start of the season not being as good as it could have been for TFC. Salcedo goes to club FC Juarez in Mexico, which is a bit of an interesting one, as they're not a traditional big club in Mexico, not a club on par of the level of the previous Liga MX clubs that Salcedo has played at. In the past, he's played with Guadalajara and with Tigres, which are, big clubs in Mexico, regular in the CONCACAF Champions League, regular contenders for the CONCACAF Champions League. And now he goes to Juarez, who are a lower half team in Mexico. So interesting move, as it seems like that team is now trying to bolster themselves and put themselves up near the top of Liga MX. But overall, Salcedo's just going to go down as a guy who was a guy that Toronto FC had as a designated player for some time. People aren't really going to remember him many years down the road. And for right now, it just is a bit of a black eye on the management coming in, especially for the start of Bob Bradley's term. And I know you can say, oh, he had family issues. That's rare that a player has to leave for that. But for Salcedo, it's a little different, because this is actually the second time he's left Mexico on a permanent transfer, just to return halfway through the season because of family issues in 2017-2018. After spending the previous season on loan at Frankfurt, he fully transferred to Eintracht Frankfurt, played 6 games for them, and then by the end of November was like, I'm done here, I want to go back home and want to be with my family in Mexico, and went back. So this just seems like a guy who, despite being able to take bigger money abroad, can't really deal with being away from home. And honestly, that's a respectable thing. He's tried it twice now. I don't think he's going to attempt to leave Mexico again. He seems to be at his happiest there, and he's one of the highest paid central defenders in Liga MX. So it's not like he's taking that big of a pay cut to stay at home in Mexico. So now TFC has another designated player spot open. We are back to all 3 DP spots being open. Of course, at the beginning of the season, we thought that Pozuelo and Salcedo were going to be DPs throughout the year, and then Insigne was going to come in. Obviously, the trade for Pozuelo, who is being replaced with, still looks like Bernadeschi. Not official yet, but it's looking more and more true by the hour. And now, with Salcedo gone, we have one more designated player spot left to fill. So really interesting to see who TFC could possibly bring in. This is a team that really looks to be building a very strong squad, so it makes sense if another high-level European designated player comes in. I mean, all likelihood is pointing to it being another Italian coming in, which I think would be pretty funny, just to go triple Italian designated players all in the same window. That would be actually hilarious. So It's going to be interesting to see who TFC brings in. Honestly, the forwards are pretty locked up. The next big moves now have to come at center back, because right now TFC is down to, at center back, Shane O'Neill, a Chris Mavinga who has admitted that his head is not fully in it, and he also has been having some family issues that have been affecting his performance on the pitch. And then Lucas McNaughton, who is a pretty solid center back as a number like 3-4 depth center back, but really still I think isn't fully up to snuff in MLS. He's made some great tackles, but I think he hasn't fully settled into the league yet, and for a team that is pushing for a playoff spot, we don't really have time to get McNaughton to settle in fully to the higher level of play in MLS. So another center back is a must. Another right fullback is a must. So a couple more moves there in those two positions. Get one more center back and one more fullback, and TFC could be cooking. The season's short. The amount of season that's left is short. So something needs to happen ASAP, or else TFC is going to fall far too far out of the playoff spots. Things already are looking far worse than they were looking a week ago. It's going to be tight for TFC, but you know, another DP spot open. We get Insigne, we get Bernadeschi by the end of the month. Anything could happen. So that is for this video. As always, if you like it, hit like. If you want to see more stuff, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.